Hello and welcome to this lecture on compliance and ethical considerations. In this lecture, we are going to understand on why it is important to comply with all applicable laws and regulations in our procurement activities. So we are noting that compliance management is a process that ensures that all procurement activities comply with applicable laws, regulations, and contractual obligations. And also, we focus on understanding ethical considerations, where it refers to the application of ethical principles and standards to procurement activities. Now, once we ensure compliance and ethical considerations, there are benefits that we are going to get as an organization, as a country, as a government. And we are saying the first one is that compliance management is very, very essential because it's going to enable us to mitigate various forms of risks, ensuring the success of procurement activities. So once we comply with laws, we avoid risks, for example, what we call legal risks, where along our procurement activities, we are going to be sued for what we have not done right. And therefore, there is need for us to comply with set rules and regulations to ensure that we get it right and avoid these kinds of risks. The other one is ensuring adherence to contractual obligations. Refers to the process of making sure that both the buyer and the seller are going to comply with terms and conditions of procurement contract. And then it is also important to understand that we are going to benefit from what we call regulatory compliance in procurement, which refers to the process of ensuring all procurement activities comply with applicable laws and regulations. So, of course, other benefits that we can be able to single out is the benefit in terms of how the organization is able to maintain a good image in the society, how the organization is able to have a good name because they are complying with set rules and regulations. Examples of these regulations in different countries are, for example, what we call Public Procurement and Disposal Act. That is an example of a law that we need to adhere to as countries. Ethical principles in contract management. We emphasize on the need for us as we undertake contract management to ensure that there is fairness and transparency, to ensure there is honesty and integrity, also to ensure that there is accountability, and also very, very importantly, respect for the rule of law. Adherence to contractual obligations. It is very, very important to understand all contracts that we enter into as organizations. And we do this by ensuring everybody that is involved in the procurement process, from selection to delivery, and throughout understands the terms of the contract. And by understanding the terms of the contract, you are able to understand the scope of work, what goods or services are being provided. You are able to also understand the deliverables, what are some specific outputs that are expected from the contract. You are expected to understand different timelines, when are the deliverables due, and once you understand the timelines, of course, you are now able to plan yourself and ensure execution has been done right. And also performance standards in terms of criteria to be followed, or what criteria must be met. Very, very importantly, in terms of adherence to contractual obligations, also in terms of payment terms, when and how the supplier should be paid. Regulatory compliance in procurement. Regulatory compliance, we are saying, is very, very critical to avoid legal and financial repercussions. And to be able to ensure that we comply with the regulations, then we are supposed to do a number of things. And the first one is to be able to identify applicable regulations. And you can be able to do this by undertaking research. And in this research, you are seeking to understand the regulations that affect your specific procurement activity. Like I've said, very many countries around East Africa and across the world have maybe what we call a procurement act, and that act guides how procurement must be undertaken. So when we are supposed to be guided by factors like the location of the buyer and the seller, the nature of goods and services that are being procured. We have a number of legal principles that are critical in terms of procurement contracts. These principles include the formation of the contract, the scope of work, price and payment terms, intellectual property rights. For example, when we talk about copyrights, when we talk about patenting of products, when we talk about trademarks, all those are areas of discussion under the intellectual property rights. And then also the principles include the principle of confidentiality, that we keep everything within procurement contracts confidential. And finally, how do we terminate procurement contracts? What are the procedures that have been laid down to ensure termination is done right? Intellectual property and confidentiality. I have just mentioned what intellectual property entails. The creations of mind, such as inventions, literally artistic work. When we talk about, for example, copyrights, we seek to protect artistic work like music, like writing of books. So it is very, very important in terms of ensuring procurement activities are done appropriately. And that's why we are saying in the final statement that procurement contracts need to address the ownership of intellectual property rights and obligations of the parties. And this is going to ensure that we keep confidential information. How do we manage intellectual property rights in contract or in contracts? We begin by identifying the intellectual property rights. These are the rights that are relevant to the procurement project. And also we determine who will own the intellectual property rights, grant the buyer necessary licenses to use the IP rights. And also, very importantly, we also able to specify how the intellectual property rights will be protected. It is also very important for us to ensure budgeting and cost control. And this is done through creating a detailed budget. And this budget is done through us or organizations outlining all anticipated project costs. That is going to include the cost of materials, the cost of labor, or what we call labor cost, the cost of equipment, and overhead expenses. And there is need for us to use historical data, industry benchmarks, and expert input that is going to ensure realistic cost estimates. Then we have cost control measures, where we do this by regular project cost tracking, and we are able also to do variance analysis, where we compare the actual budget and the budgeted costs. And then we are also able to identify and address cost overruns promptly. We are able to utilize resource management tools to optimize resource allocation. And very importantly, we are able to negotiate favorable payment terms with the suppliers as we undertake our cost control measures. Payment terms and conditions that are very, very important. The first one is to have a payment schedule. And when we have a payment schedule, then we can answer the critical question on when the payments are due. We can also answer the critical questions in terms of payment methods, e.g. what we call wire transfer or a check. A check is QUE at the end. Sorry about that. Then we have milestone-based payments, where we link payments to project completion milestones. So for every milestone, then a payment is done. A milestone means each completed step, we are able to make payment as that particular moment. Contract closeout procedures. We do this by finalizing all contract deliverables. We also conduct a final performance review. We also are able to settle all outstanding invoices, and we are able to close out the contract file. Efficient closure process. We do this by being able to finalize all contractual deliverables. We do this to confirm that the supplier has delivered all goods. And then also, it is important for us to be able to conduct a final performance review. And when you are doing a final performance review, then we are able to assess the overall performance of the contract. And this is against agreed upon terms, where we identify areas for improvement and future contracts. Efficient closure processes also. It is important for us to settle all outstanding invoices. This is going to involve us paying all our suppliers who have delivered goods and services. And then also we have close out the contract file. We do this by organizing and storing all contractual documents. And this includes signed out agreements, communication records, performance reviews, and invoices, that we are going to do it in a secure and accessible location. This documentation is going to be key in terms of ensuring it serves a valuable reference for future endeavors. There is need for us to also document the lessons that we have learned. This is done through capturing key takeaways and insights from contract experience. Also be able to identify areas for improvement in future processes. Once we document, we can also be able to share these learnings with relevant stakeholders. Also be able to identify areas where procurement processes should be improved. So we are not just doing documentation for the sake of it. We want to ensure that we are able to notice our areas of improvement and go ahead and improve. This knowledge transfer also is going to foster continuous improvement and streamline future procurement activities. There are a number of methods for documenting the lessons that have been learned. Number A is to be able to conduct a post-contract review meeting. This is done with key stakeholders. When you talk about stakeholders, there are any people that are involved in a project. This, we are also saying there is need to develop a written report, so we can be able to come up with a written report. In this report, we include key takeaways. What is it that we have been able to learn? What are the challenges? And what are the areas that we think are key to be able to improve? And then also we update internal templates or procedures on learnings from completed contracts. Evaluating contract performance. We need to be able to do what we call a post-contract evaluation review. In the post-contract evaluation review, we focus in understanding factors like the timelines that we have of delivery, the quality of goods or services that are provided. And then also we seek to assess supplier performance and outcomes. Through these, we can analyze the supplier's responsiveness. We can be able to analyze problem-solving skills, undertake problem-solving skills, and overall contribution to the project success. Then there is need for us to do contractual renewal and extensions. So there comes a time when we need to do a renewal of contracts. This is done through continued need for goods and services provided by the supplier. Also, we need to ensure satisfactory performance of the suppliers during initial contract terms. Ensure also market competitiveness of the current contract terms. And very importantly, to understand potential benefits of negotiating new terms with existing suppliers versus seeking alternative suppliers. There are a number of strategies that we need to adopt for successful contract renewal. Of course, the first one is to be able to evaluate contract performance, where we conduct a thorough review of the existing contract performance. And we do this through the ability to be able to identify what are those areas that the supplier has been able to do very well or has been able to excel. And then also we gather market intelligence, research current market prices for the goods or services that are being procured. This is going to equip you with the leverage during negotiations. And also finally, the final strategy is we need to develop negotiation goals, where there is need to be able to set clear and achievable goals for the negotiation. And this could involve securing a price reduction, extending payment terms, or including additional services in the renewed contract. So once we have been able to do these negotiations, once we have been able to evaluate contract performance and we have been able to gather market intelligence, then we can now be able to make a decision on which of those suppliers are we going to renew their contract. This is also going to be determined by the fact that do we need them to offer similar services like they have been offering? Is it tasks that would continue to be done within organizations? Those are critical, very critical questions that we undertake when we are doing successful contract renewal. Of course, the suppliers must have met our obligations in terms of quality. They must have met our obligations in terms of pricing. They must have met our obligations in terms of getting it right when it comes to the service that they have been able to offer to us. So when we talk about contract renewal, then the suppliers need to have in mind that it is not automatic. They have to live to the expectations of the organization for them to be considered for renewal of any contract. So thank you so much. I invite you to do more research around this conversation, and it is going to be of benefit to you. Thank you so much.